Good evening. There we go. Right, I am just setting up, so bear with me. Okay, so Daisy, can we see that? Is that working?
Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay. Hello everyone, good evening. Thank you for joining. This is a bit of an experiment because I haven't done first impressions live before, and it's really a practice run ahead of the Airfix's 124 Spitfire. But actually, this is the kit I've been waiting for most of all. Now I know one or two people have already done a review. I've not looked at any of them because I want all of my surprises to be genuine, good or bad. In the chat, you will find my daughter. She's the one with the really long blue name and a spanner at the end. Say hello, Daisy.
Hello.
Daisy, sit a bit closer.
Okay.
Daisy is going to be reading the comments for me, and if anyone asks any questions, she'll make me aware, because I'm going to concentrate on this bad boy, so I can't really see your comments, although I will read them afterwards, and Daisy will keep me up to date with what's going on.
Yes.
Okay, right, brilliant. So, let the fun begin. But before that, I'm just going to see who's on and say hello to everyone. I can see Jeff's there. Hi, Jeff. Hi, Dan. Good to see you, Rob. Gary again, Martin again. Brilliant. So, some of the guys that were watching the Mary Rose build are over there. Okay, don't be afraid of popping up in the chat and saying hello. And please like so that other people get to see the video, if of course you think the video's worth it. So let's have a look. It's the new style red box, and I got to say I prefer the new style red box. The last 3 or 4 kits that have come out have been like this. We've lost this red strip here, and I think it's all the better for it. It tells us on the front that it's that the image is 1st of June 1940, while on patrol over Dunkirk evacuation beaches. So this aircraft my grandfather would have seen because he paid 7 trips to the Dunkirk beaches. And then it tells us about the crew were attacked by Messerschmitt Bf-109s. Amazingly, they shot down 2 of the 109s, damaged another one, and returned to base unscathed. Peters was awarded a DFC for this action, quite rightly so. So great little picture on the back. Sorry about the light a little bit, but the box looks really good. We've got a 109 in flames, another one coming in trying to make the kill. So really interesting. The kit number is A09191. It's a new tool that's just been released. It landed with me today. I think other people probably started receiving it yesterday. It's the Avro Anson Mark 1. I know that Airfix have done this before, but I think it was 172, not 148. As we look down the side of the box, we've got the usual bits and pieces, but it does tell us its design and tooling is 2022 and it's made in India. Of course, we know the tooling is done in China, and importantly, it tells us it's cartograph, and don't be building it if you're under 3. And then the sides pretty much as usual show us what's on the top, and then the interesting side is always this one. So we've got 3 flying hours. It's a skill level 3. We've got our Humbrol paint reference chart there, and the usual bit of history, and then the 3 different paint options. Now I thought there was going to be 4. I'm sure that's what was said in Sprue Talk, so there might be another one. We'll find out. I gotta say, of the 3, I'm quite drawn to that one just because it's so very different. But let's have a quick look at what they are. So we've got N9732, crewed by Pilot Officer Philip Peters, Squadron D Spencer, Sergeant D Spencer, sorry. That's the thing about live, isn't it? I can't cut the bloopers out. Okay, we'll carry on. Leading Aircraftsman Pepper, number 500, County of Kent Squadron, Royal Auxiliary Air Force, Royal Air Force, Detling Kent, Airfix Airfix aircraft shot down 2 BF-109s. So this is the one that's depicted on the front here. Then we've got Paint Scheme B, which is Coastal Command Camouflage Trials Aircraft number 71 Squadron, Royal Australian Air Force, Queensland, October 43. I do quite like that one, got to say. And then Paint Scheme C is number 3 Training Command, number 31 General Reconnaissance, Royal Canadian Air Force, Prince Edward Isle, Canada, 1941. So we've got 3 different territories there, so that's quite interesting. Okay, I have cut the tape, but I've not looked in. I've been good, so I think it's time that we had a look in. But before I do that, I'm just going to see if there was anything exciting on there. Yeah, I agree, Gary, it does look better for dropping the red stripe. Okay, so if anyone has any questions, please just put them in the comments. If there's anything you want to see more closely or want me to go back to, put it in the comments. Daisy will pick that up, make me aware, and we can do that for you. So this should be fun. I have not looked in the box, so let's go. Oh, okay. So the first thing that I'm noticing is that we've got this dark plastic that was used recently on the 148 Buccaneer. So not the usual or more familiar light blue plastic. And we have, what, 2 sprues in that bag and 2 sprues in that bag and 2 sprues laid out. I'm not sure about that, but I've already got a loose part. I've already got one part that's come off. That is not brill. They need to be on top of each other and tightly packed. So yeah, that's going to cause us problems. That would be much better if it was heat sealed like that. And then, so we've got, what, 6 sprues of plastic of different sizes, and then we've got the clear sprue in its own separate bag. But look, you can see how the bag's taking a little bit of damage, so it's a good job that they've given it that protection and not put it in with other things. And then at the bottom we have our instruction book. We'll have a closer look at that in a sec. Decals, separate paint shout outs. Let's have a look at the instructions first. Let me just move this out of the way. See, I can't edit live either, so you're getting warts and all. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put the sprues in the lid, and then I can pack them back in the box as we go. So we're getting some of the model kit stuff secrets to filming a first impressions video live in your living room tonight. Okay, so I need to also finish my Airfix beer. Airfix should make a beer. I would actually buy Airfix beer.
Of course you would.
My daughter's laughing. But I would, because it's got Airfix on it. Okay, right. Usual format. We've got our A4 colour stapled booklet. Has a bit of history, has some specifications, tells us to wash our parts. Always a good bit of advice. And then, as per usual, we've got some information on assembly instructions before you start. The list of icons, nothing particularly new in there, all recognisable. And then we start step 1 with our cockpit. And right from the get-go, I don't know what those are. Is that a pedal or what's that? I don't know. 3-part seat with a cushion. I'd be interested to see what the texture's like on the cushion when we get to it. And what we can see is we've got something that looks like the root of a wing spar maybe. And we're already getting some form of decals going on, so I don't know if that looks like dials or something there. We've got another seat there that's built going in next to it, so I'm guessing we've got pilot, co-pilot, something like that. I'm no expert on planes, as people know. And then we've got some form of stool. I nearly said something else, but some form of stool and a seat, and then 3 cans with, again, with decals on the top. I have no idea what they are either. I'm no doubt in the chat people are telling me what it is, and I will go back and read that after the video. Any questions, Days?
No.
Okay, you are concentrating on it though, aren't you?
I am concentrating on it.
Good girl. Right, step 9, and we have what's something that's clearly root spar going in, and we've got some geometry there, which is always handy for reference both ways, 90 degrees both ways. And then step 10, we've got some internal framework going in, so that's going to add a real nice level of detail. We can see we've got some moulded on components as well, so that will uplift things as well. Then we've got steering going in, and at step 12 we've got an option, steering or some form of blanking plate. So it doesn't particularly clearly say for different paint options, so I guess it's just personal preference, is it? I don't know. A little bit of research probably needed into what you're gonna do there and why. Step 13. Now they've talked about this quite a lot. This is the one thing I was expecting, which is the little angle light.
Someone asked what beer you're drinking.
Okay, I will answer that in a sec. So we've got a little angle light on a desk there with some form of, I don't know, it's a decal like aircraft recognition or something. See if I can get that close so you can see. So yeah, that's interesting. So that looks quite cool, doesn't it? And painted up and what have you. That would look really nice. And obviously, if you've got some scale maps and things, you could probably put them on there as well. So yeah, some nice opportunities for some details on. And one of the features of this kit, this aircraft, is you've got lots of glazing, so you will see this detail, so that's nice. Okay, someone's asked what beer I'm drinking. The beer is called Doom Bar, and actually I don't drink alcohol, so it's alcohol free, and of all the alcohol free beers, that is the most like a real ale of any that I've tried. I used to drink real ale. I used to be a member of Camera, but I now drink alcohol free, and this is really nice.
It's a bit blurry for people, apparently.
Right.
It's a bit blurry. I don't know if that's
It's a
fixable.
Okay, so a bit blurry. Let's see if we can zoom in any.
It is a bit blurry on this end, to be fair.
Okay, how does that look?
Give it a while to catch me. I think it looks a bit better.
Okay. Is that better? Okay, well, we'll do the best we can. It's the same setup that I usually have. Okay, so where were we? We were at step 14, weren't we? So then we've got all sorts of bits of equipment going in. I'm not going to pretend that I know what a lot of this is, but we've got controls, we've got the dials going in and decals for it, and quite a few internal decals, so that's nice to see. That'll bring things to life. And then we've got the radio sets and stuff going in, and more the other side of the fuselage frame, and we have some light weapon going in. So plenty of detail being put in there. It'd be nice to see what this looks like when we look at the plastic. Okay, in step 24 we've got the roof structure going in. So again, whatever angle you look at it, you're going to see detail. We've got paint instructions as we go. Quite a lot of different paints being called out, which is nice to see, because Airfix were always a little bit annoying sometimes that they would just say paint that all interior green and they wouldn't necessarily pick out the colour. So it's good to see that we're seeing more information about paint schemes. Okay, then we've got a little bit of drilling to do, and we're doing some work on the inside of the first fuselage half. Glazing is from the inside, which means we're going to have to do some masking later on. Then we've got a note about port fuselage. It's important to align various areas. Please see the details below. Oh, okay. So that's I've not seen that before. That's a nice little feature, isn't it? The do's and don'ts, so that you get the fit correct, which shows you that they've done some practice builds and they know what they're talking about, which is good. Yeah, and it's showing you exactly where it should sit so that you know you're not going to have any fit problems and hopefully no gaps. Step 30. Another machine gun going in. Tells you that's the exterior surface colour, so you've got to have decided what your paint scheme is, and this is actually an option for paint scheme A anyway. Then when we get to step 32, we're adding the bulkhead into that. So I'm guessing that is viewable as they want it painted the surface colour. I'm guessing they mean the inside surfaces. So as you look down into it, you'll see that. Then we've got some lights being painted and put in there. They've given you paint numbers for those as well. Then we've got the other cockpit interior wall going in and the other bit of glazing, and then we put the two fuselage halves together. And again, more information on how things should be fitting together. I really like this. We're at step 37, two fuselages together, lots of interior detail and lots of help with the build notes. So this seems to be coming together really nicely actually. Okay, so as we get to step 38, we're going to put the roof structure in there. There's a bit of drilling to be done. Doesn't say it's an option, so we need to do it on all of the paint schemes. And then we've got a floor section going in. And I'm guessing that they're following natural panel line positions for placing those. So that should all help with the look of it. The tail is being built up in step 40. Just move that into camera view a little bit better. Because I've zoomed in, it's not quite getting in camera. So building up the tail, they've used this method on the Chipmunk and one or two others, and it does work quite well actually. And then we're putting the top pieces on once the two are together. It's telling you not to glue, and the thing what that means is as you move that flaps automatically in the same angle, so that makes life nice and easy. Then as we flip over step 43, looks like we've got more interior parts, so this time all landing gear area. So we've got lots of individual framework, some form of tube or tank of some type. They're using the arrow system again, so they've used that on the Mosquito, and I'm fairly sure we used it on the new tool 172 Spitfire as well, and it's really handy for orientating yourself. So this is the lamps in the wing there, very nice. So we're building up these little landing gear frames by the looks of them, which has got the back wall of the engine. Okay, then we're putting the wing top on. So we're putting the bottom of the wing in against the spar and then putting the top on, which again is the same way as they did it with the Mosquito, and the fit was lovely. So I'm not expecting any issues with that either. Anything on the chat, Days, before I turn the page?
That one maybe.
I wonder if we can fit the roof section so we can be removed to view the interior. You know what? It would be interesting to see if the roof section could be put on loose, like you say, but you do have the gun turret in there. So whether you'd be able to lift that off with the gun turret in or not, I don't know. But yeah, that would be the only thing that might cause you some issues. But if the gun turret drops in, there's no reason why that can't be taken out. But of course it wouldn't sit properly in there without the roof plate being in place. So interesting question though. There's certainly lots of detail to see in that. I could see why you'd want to. A little bit more drilling to do and our wings are done. So we're at what, step 55 now, and we've got the engine and not really the cowlings, the covers going in. So they're going on, two-piece covers, and then you've got the bit that was already mounted in the bottom, so effectively it makes up by three pieces. Then we've got the wing flaps going in, then we're making up the engines. So two parts there, then we're adding the pipe work, push rods and bits and pieces. Actually quite a complex little build-up, isn't it, of engine parts. It looks really nice in the CAD drawing photographs. Hopefully it will look just as good in the plastic, but that does look really quite nice. So just make sure you can see that, because see the steps there, we're building that up. The spinner is internal there, so we should be able to turn the prop when we're done. And we've got the exhaust pipe work going up there. And this is a really nice touch on the cowling here, where we've got these bulges. They're individual. That means that the detail will be really nicely moulded in, and we're not losing definition because they've moulded it in as part of that. So yeah, I really like that. That's a really nice touch. That's going to make a big difference actually. So where were we? 76 steps so far. Let's flip her over, and we're at step 77. And we're carrying on with that, building the cowling. Then we've got the clear parts going over the lamps there, engine covers going on, and then a two-piece tail. Hard to tell from that whether it would be able to move or not, but it does say do not glue, so I think that will be posable, which would be nice. Step 85, and we start putting the glazing on. And we've got some decals that go on the inside of the door, but it's such a wide expanse of glass in this thing that you will see most of that detail, even with the roof on. And then we've got the front canopy going in, and there's a good proportion of the actual fuselage in there that will need to be painted, so that's going to make painting up to the glass that bit easier. A couple of top panels going in, and then we're building up this nose section, which that looks like a big lamp. I'm sure someone will correct me if that's not right. One thing to keep your eye on as you go through this is there's lots of options here. Different parts depending on which version you're doing. I think that's quite an interesting one. How this looks might dictate which paint scheme you go with, because that's quite a nice looking busy windscreen, but you could only do it for the Canadian version. Okay, interesting. Let's move on. Step 90. And we've got something going on. Don't know what that is. Looks like we've got two-part wheels with the hubs moulded in. And I don't want to say I'm disappointed by that, but they have recently done kits with the hubs separately, and it does make life a lot easier when you're painting them. What they did with the Mosquito that I recently built was they left a little hole in there so you could mount it on a toothpick on a cocktail stick, and left the hubs separate, so you painted them separate, glued them in, job done. So sometimes they don't bank all of their good ideas, and it's a bit of a shame. But then we're plopping that in, and we'll be making two of those, I guess. It doesn't necessarily say that, I don't think, but and then we can see them being mounted into the struts, and then mounted into our engine nacelles. So they look really quite nice. We'll have a look when we see the plastic. Tail wheel going in, some bits and bobs, and then we've got aerials and antennas and what looks like some form of klaxon. No idea what that is, but there's certainly lots of little parts that we need to put on. I am going to have a sip of my beer. Daisy, anything on the chat?
Not that I can see.
Okay, that's fine.
So. Half of the stuff I don't actually understand, like what's with the numbers and the slashes. And the...
What's with the numbers and the slashes?
Well, yeah, that's just my question.
Okay. How do you mean?
1/48, what even is that?
Oh, that's a scale,
okay.
148 scale. Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Okay. She's having an education, is my daughter. Right, last page. So we now know there's 108 steps. There's our propellers going in. We've got separate centres, which is a nice touch. And then we've got our gun turret being put together. And that in itself is quite complicated. Be interesting to see how detailed that is. That's one area that tends to be a bit skimped on, I always think. And then, what is that, three parts glass section, and then that's been bobbed in.
Are they weighted wheels?
Are they weighted wheels? Well, we will have a look at the plastic, but they don't look, yeah, it looks like there's a flat on them. So, yeah, looks like there is a flat on the wheel there. But we'll have a look at the plastic in a sec. Let's have a look at our paint instructions next. Thank you, Daisy.
No problem.
Okay, so usual format for Airfix. We've got two separate A3 sheets. One with our colour and paint schemes on, and then one that has our... now I was about to say the stencils, but there is no stencils on here. This is a rigging diagram. Blimey. Well, that's good, isn't it? So we've got clear red lines here, which are showing us exactly where they need to be. And the ones on the wings there, so you can cross-reference. Oh, I like that. And we can see that at the bottom there as well. And it looks like there's little touches of it on the tail there. Well, that's really nice. So we've got moulded in detail that allows us to put some rigging in. So probably something like Easy Line would be the best way, some form of lycra thread, but you could probably do it with fishing line as well. Well, that's interesting. I was all set to say that was stencils, and it's not. Right, let's have a look. Let's do them in order, shall we? Pretend we're professional. Okay, so sorry about the light. It's a little bit glossy, this. So this is paint scheme A. We already know what it is because it told us on the box. And it's a camouflage, 2 greens. We've got our call out of paints there. Shows us what we need to be doing with the tips. It even tells us that it's a 2mm tip that needs to be painted on. So it's not a decal. And then obviously all of these red squares are decals. So it's not overpowering the number of decals on there, to be honest. Certainly seeing a lot more on some aircraft, but there is plenty there. The first aid kit I can see and various bits and pieces. So nicely laid out, very clear to follow. If we go over to B, so we've got upper surfaces have got a camouflage scheme, which is what have we got? 98, which is matte chocolate. That's interesting. And then matte dark green, but most of it is matte white. So if you like painting white, this is definitely the version for you. But what I like about it is the striking markings. They really stand out, and I think it's quite different, and you can do some lovely weathering techniques on white surfaces really easily, staining and what have you, so lends itself lovely to that. The underneath surface is 22, so gloss white, so white underneath but gloss, white on the upper surfaces but matte. So again, I'm almost definitely doing that, and we'll talk about what I'm doing with it at the end of the video. And then paint scheme C is our Canadian one, which has got a yellow underneath, and everyone loves painting yellow, so I'm sure that'll be very popular. And then the upper works are the sort of the dark earth matte green, usual sort of scheme. I got to be honest, I think all of them are really quite striking. I like all of them. It's clearly laid out, easy to follow. Yeah, I like that. Let's have a look at the decals. I nearly went to switch the camera off then, because that's my habit when I'm doing a first impression. Speeding or pit-up tube. Okay. Right. Okay, let's have a look at the decals. So, we know the cartograph, so we know that they're going to behave themselves. And now I've said that, I need to just add a caveat. We assume that they're okay, but I've just done a mosquito and some of the decals were out of register. And I've never come across that before, so that was a little bit of a surprise to me. But on first glance, these all look okay. The roundels are certainly good. We've got lots of little decals up there, tiny ones. A lot of them being the dials. We've got some metallics as well, which is nice to see. What I would say is that that haven't got the usual demarcation where it says these are common, this is paint scheme A, this is paint scheme B, and so on. They're all just laid out there. So I'm guessing a lot of them are fairly common anyway, but you know, that's the Canadian tail. That is, so they're all mixed up. So whether that is another little cost saving that Airfix have picked up on, I don't know, but it certainly simplifies the process for them. And I don't think it adds any difference to us as modelers, that we've got to find the right decal. You're doing that anyway, so if that's a little cost saving and it gets passed on to us, that's all good. But yeah, they all look okay. Try and get the light off them for you. Yeah, dials look really quite nice. I'll try and get those a bit closer. Sometimes the light flickers if I get too close. That's our small decals there. And then we've got some more there. All good. Okay. Right, I suppose we should look at some plastic. So I'm going to do this in the order that I'm taking out of the box, not necessarily numeric order or anything like that. How are we doing with the chat, Daisy? Any questions or anything I need to be talking about?
No, people are saying decals are nice.
Yeah, the decals are definitely nice.
Somewhat confusing without the
demarcation?
Yeah, lines.
Yeah. Yeah, it's unusual that Airfix have done that, but I reckon it's a cost saving. Right, let's see. Let's start with sprue A, although I saw something that really made me smile on sprue B, and I want to talk about it, but I'll hold off. Right, sprue A. We've got the fuselage, halves, upper and lower sections, tail section, wing spar, the internal bits of tubing and the cockpit floor. And I'm going to start with the cockpit floor. So let's have a look at that. We've got some, not quite sure what they are. It looks a bit like stitching, but I'm sure it's not. it's really nice hard plastic. Airfix's new harder plastic I think is lovely to work with. So yeah, that's all nice. We've got these three. I have no idea what those are.
What colour are those sprues?
They're a sort of grey colour. I want to say mucky grey. But yeah, they are not the usual Airfix blue grey. They are a darker grey. So if you saw the 148 Buccaneer first impressions I did, it's the same colour as that. Yeah, definitely the same colour. So this must be something new for Airfix. Remembering that the Katie, when that came out, was tooled and produced by Academy, so it's not usual Airfix plastic. I think this is the new Indian colour maybe. We probably need another couple of kits to come out to verify that. I don't know what the new Meteor plastic colour was. But yeah, it's just look at that tail. Can you see it in the light there? The texturing on it is absolutely stunning. Look at that. That is really nice. The canning on it is really nice. We've got, there's raised detail, so there's little hinges on the back there, and then we've got our engraved lines, and then we've got some raised fastener details on there. That is really lovely, and it is super thin, very crisp moulding, as you can see. I'm not going to spend too much time on the wing spar. I can see that there's a bit of seam on there, so we'll have to just look carefully at that. And then it's the same on the outer surfaces. You can see all the ribbing there. It's really nicely done. There's no panel lines at the back end, so I'm guessing this was material, but we certainly have them here, and look at all that rivet detail there. Can you see that in the light? That is really beautiful. We've got double track rivets, larger raised fasteners around this opening here. The bulge is nice and crisp, it's not soft moulded at all.
Wonder if the colour changes due to something added to the plastic to make it harder.
I don't think so. So something added to plastic to make it harder, I don't think so. And the reason I say that is we started seeing some harder plastic with the Meteor. So I would say we're about 9 months into the harder plastic, but only recently seen the colour change. Now I might be wrong. I know they've been playing around with improving their plastic, so this might be a further iteration of that. But definitely we had harder plastic before the colour change. Tail, again, lots and lots of detail on there. I think the harder plastic is definitely helping with the crispness of the moulding. So yeah, lovely detail. We'll have a look on the other side in a minute. Again, I can feel under my finger there, all of these fasteners along the wing root are all raised. Really nice. And then we've got the fastener detail here, all the rivets are countersunk. It is stunning, isn't it? Then we've got our tubes, and they're not flashy at all. So our tubular frame, really thin, crisp. I mean, I can't even see it. I've only got my reading glasses on, but I cannot see any seam on there. Then we've got some nice little detailed parts. Yeah, it's really nice. Okay, we've got some little ejector pin points there that'll have to be removed. And then as we look at the roof, again, some real finesse. And because it's harder, you've got a bit more confidence that this isn't going to snap as you remove it. Let's have a look on the other side of the sprue now. So we've got a little bit of detail on the wing root there, so I'm guessing some of that is visible. Looks like some form of vent or something. And then we've got basically frame detail only. And one or two of you might have spotted there's the occasional ejector pin there. Yeah, quite a few ejector pins, and they are all countersunk, so you'll need to stock up on Mr. Surfacer before you get stuck into painting this. it'd be interesting to see how much of this will be visible and covered, but clearly all of this lot will have to be dealt with. It's a lot of ejector pin marks. Now, obviously you'd rather have them on internal surfaces than external surfaces, but there is a lot of them here. So, yeah, okay, so that is sprue A. So that's one of the two large sprues. Let's look at sprue B. So sprue B being the other large one that was in the same bag, and what I immediately saw and I wanted to point out is all this canning. Now I hadn't noticed it on the tail, but look how it carries on the wings there. You can see every single spar in the internals of that. That is really nice. And then there's some subtle lines. Can you see them in the light as well? So that internal pattern changes as we go across the back of the engine nacelle there. All this detail here is recessed detail, and look, you can see tautness of the materials. We've got raised hinges all the way along there, and you can see how that canning changes as we get to the wingtip. It is really beautiful. This is the under section, and we've got a raised rib there, and then we've got all this ribbing that we can see. Hey, it's really nice. Some raised fastener detail and recessed panel lines. I don't know if those panel lines are a bit heavy or not. It's always a talking point around Airfix. I guess some people would think they are. I don't think I'm qualified to say. But it doesn't look out of proportion, I suppose, would be my thoughts on it. Then we've got, whatever they are, all these little hatches of some type that you can open, raised hinges and panel lines that are dropped in. Really nice. Our engine nacelle, our engine covers there, again, lots and lots of detail on there. And then we've got lots of texture on the flaps as well. And one thing we haven't seen is any sink or anything like that, so that's really nice, all crisp and good. Happy with that. I've got to say, that is stunning. I don't know what you guys think, and I will read up on what you think when I get back, but that is really nice. In fact, on the camera that looks really dark, that plastic. It almost looks dark grey, but it's not. It's quite a pale grey.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, that is the first bag. 2 sprues out of the way. I'm going to move them out of the way and grab the next bag. So we've got another 2 sprues in there. So this is sprue C. So again, this is a recent development by Airfix. They've started putting this little tab in, as well as calling it the frame C. So yeah, all very good. What I can't see on this is the little recycling logo, which Airfix have been putting on recently. Yeah, I can't see that. So whether the change of plastic means we can't recycle. Ah, there it is. I beg your pardon. You can recycle it. Okay. If your council recycles this sort of stuff. Okay, sprue C. Lots and lots of small, delicate parts. And for starting this bottom corner, we've got our machine guns, and they are really nicely detailed. For bringing them into the centre of the screen. Really nicely detailed. They're not thick and chunky like they used to be. They're nice and crisp. Some lovely detail in there. The radio antenna loop, nice and thin. There's a bit of seam on it. I can just see that in the light, but a whip round with your de-seaming tool, whatever your method is, that'll look good. Then we've got our little angle poise light there. That's really cool, isn't it? Yeah, I like that. And then we've got some bulkheads with details on. They look good. More engine covers. That thing, which I thought was a wing span, it's certainly got fastener detail and stuff on it that we'll see. And we had some dials to go on there, didn't we? So the seat, that's got some nice detail on there. Look at that. Lovely little detail on there. Then we've got our, I always call it a dashboard. I'm sure there's a proper name for it, and it's not a dashboard, but you know what I mean. It's where all the dials are for flying it. Then we've got all sorts of bits of pipe work in there. Now some of it might need a little bit of work. That looks lovely though, doesn't it, coming out of there? But a little bit of a scrape behind it to round it off a little bit, and that looks stunning. And all sorts of little dials and bits and pieces on there. This I think is for the landing gear section. Radio boxes there. It's all very crisply moulded. Detail is lovely. Seats have got a little bit of texture, but it's not overdone. That's that big lamp that goes in the nose. Someone's going to tell me it's a radar or something, but I don't think it is. Some of the bits that we saw going onto the fuselage at the end. Now that's the cushion that goes in the seat, and that's got some texture on as well. You can see that in the light. Yeah, that's all really nice. We've got backs to the dials as well, so if you want to put the leads in and think they're going to be visible, you've got a starting point at least. So yeah, there's nothing not to like on there. It's all crisp. There's no flash. There's no sink. Nice hard plastic, crisply moulded. What's not to like? Let's just run you through those again. I don't know why it's looking so dark. Apologies. It is night time, I suppose, so I've not got any light coming through the window. So you'll be able to come back to this video and pause this if you want to have another look. Let's have a look at the next sprue. You yawning already, Daisy? My daughter's yawning lightweight, aren't they, youngsters? Okay, right, sprue D. And okay, so we've got some of the tail parts here, and we can see the texture in there. You can see that in the light. Looks really good. And again, we've got that lovely canning on there. They've done a really good job on the surfaces. And even on the tail, I mean, you look at the tail here, look at all that. Lots and lots of detail. They could have just put that in and got away with it, but they've put all the detail in there. It's really beautiful. We've got some, I think that's to do with the landing gear. Certainly that's the tail wheel. Tail wheel's all moulded in, which is a bit of a shame. Because that is now solid. I'd like to have seen that separate. Separate wheel. They could have done that at this scale. Absolutely, they could have. Then we've got these. This is the separate engine cowling for all these bulges, which we've not come to yet. This is our little roof structure around the turret mount, and here's our wheels and tyres. And they are weighted. We have little flats on them, and they've got the bulges. And they look quite natural and nice. They've got the valves in the wheels, so that all looks good. There's no tread pattern, but that's probably right. I'm sure Airfix will have got it right. Yeah, they're really quite nice. There's no wording or anything on the sidewalls though. No doubt someone will chuck some resin ones out if that bothers you, but it doesn't bother me so much. Then we've got the exhaust pipe work for the engines. Got these little lamps, so you'd paint those silver, and then the little 3 prongs you'd paint black, and that would look really nice. It would pop out, and it looks like a wing blank, so definitely for future variants. So we know there's more coming, as there always is, and more of the internals of the gears. Yeah, looking really quite good. Nothing on the other side to report, but I'll just take you through that again. Look at all that canning. Now I heard someone say that this was possibly Airfix's most complicated kit yet. I'm not sure, but there's certainly a lot of fine parts in there to build, isn't there? A lot of detail being crammed into this. I'm quite impressed. Okay, right, I was going to switch the camera off again. Old habits. Right.
Yeah, so if the stream goes off suddenly, you know what happened.
Yeah, I pressed the wrong button. Okay, these are our last two plastic sprues. Now, if you remember, these were next to each other, which I've got to say was a little bit underwhelming because we've already lost a part off the sprue as a result. So, something to think about. So the bit that's loose in the bag is one of the little engine cowling bumps. I'm going to leave it in there for now. And what we've got is, I think it's, yeah, 2 sprue E's. You can see this is the one that's lost the part. So we've got 2 of these smaller ones. And this is mainly the engine parts. We've got some landing gear parts and then these cowling bumps, which when I look at them, the sprue gate, the connector there, is just on this lip. So there's quite a bit of careful cleanup needed. It's a real shame that they weren't able to get the sprue gate on the underside here. Tammy would have done it, no doubt about it. That sprue gate would have connected on that bottom surface. You'd have been able to cut it off, clean up that surface and not have to mess around with thinning that down. So that's a little bit disappointing. However, the actual fact that they've done them separately is a good thing. They're nice and crisp, the shape looks good. Engine detail, I can feel it under my fingernail, so I can't see that particularly well. Let's see if I can get it in the light, but there is all the rims there. I'm being kicked, so that means there's a question.
Well, I don't know, potentially a shake and bake kit, what does that mean?
Potentially a shake and bake kit. I think what they're trying to say is you could build it straight from the box and not have to worry about buying lots of aftermarket. And I think I agree, the level of detail is great. There is no way that Edward isn't bringing out some photo etch for this, for the interior and what have you. I've no doubt that they will. And for some of the engine wiring and bits and pieces. But I think with some careful painting and some careful weathering, you could really make this sing. Then we've got these are these radiators or something like that? I've seen those on the swordfish, so I think that's what they are. We've got all the little pipe work and stuff there, which is really nicely moulded. Some very fine parts which are really quite small and detailed, but it's all lovely and crisp. Gone are the days of Airfix soft moulding. It's lovely to see. Look at the detail. They've got all the fasteners there on the hub for the propeller, and we've got no sprue gate on the propeller blades, so that means I'm a happy man because I hate it when they do that. So this is lovely that they've got that on the centre, nice and easy to clean up. Although this will be very visible, so careful cleanup will be required. But this is a nice solution that they've done there, and I think it looks really quite good. Obviously we need to add brake lines, but yeah, otherwise really nice. So let's have a close look at that. Anything in the chat, Daisy?
No.
Okay. So that's our 2 plastic sprues. So that's the end of the plastic sprues. So we're now on the clear ones. What are you laughing at? Okay. This is the first time me and my daughter have been a double act. Don't know if it's the last. But don't know. Let me know in the chat. Has she done a decent job?
I know that.
Well, this is a bit of a dry run ahead of doing the Spitfire.
I'm making everybody laugh, just so you know.
Okay. Everyone's laughing. As long as they're laughing at you and not me, that's all good.
Oh no.
Okay. Clear plastic parts. Wow, look at the size of them. They're pretty impressive. Let's do the little check to have a look at distortion. And as we get close, these, as we'd hope, have got no distortion whatsoever. As I look through the top of the glazing here, I've got a tiny amount of distortion, but and a real tiny amount of distortion. I would say they're pretty damn good. All the flat ones are great. There's a little bit of distortion as you'd expect in the turret there, but it's minor. It's really minor. Actually, I think that's quite impressive. And they're certainly crystal clear. I've got no scuffs on them, which I have had in the past. I've got no scuffs. Where it's a bit matte, that we know is fuselage to be painted. And look at the difference of the profile of the window. You've got quite a steep window there, and then you've got quite an aerodynamic one. And I think that's the earlier one, I think. But yeah, that's it's a nice window, that, isn't it? Then we've got our glazing there for the wing lights. A masking set would be really helpful because some of these metal struts are really thin. Painting them and cleaning them up is going to be a bit problematic without doing some careful masking. So I think a masking set definitely required. But you know, we've got some bubbles there, really nice and clear. What's that? Is that a drop tank? Clear drop tank. Then our nose, really crystal clear. We've got some lovely detail of fasteners on there. Love it. Little bit of, is that flash or is that supposed to be there? Seems to be two halves, so maybe it's supposed to be there. And then we've got our back section. So yeah, that's all really nice. Now I am going to refilm this as a first impressions so we can get nice and close and cut out my daughter laughing and bits and pieces like that. So I will refilm this and probably have better light. But
cut out some of the best bits.
But it's yeah, it's looking good. So yeah, I mean, when it comes to the glazing and distortion, you know, how perfect was the actual aircraft? So always a question to ask yourself, isn't it? Right, I think that is everything from the box. So give me 2 secs and we will wrap this up with my view. Which means I'm going to finish my beer. Okay, let's finish in our classic style. Actually, let's get the light off. I'm going to just zoom out a little bit. There we go. Okay, so I think what I'd very much love all of you to do is give some feedback on the quality of the picture and the sound for the live stream first impressions, because I intend to do one when we get to do the 124 Spitfire. So whatever I can take away from this helps on the next one. But for now, let's talk about what my first impression is. And I think you've probably picked this up from watching the video as we've gone through the box. I am pretty impressed with that. 1/48 scale, you expect lots of detail.
No sink marks.
Yeah. So you expect loads of detail, and Airfix in the last 24 months have been playing a huge game of catch-up, and this is the next catch-up step. The detail is lovely. It's as good as anybody's, I think. You've now got hard plastic, you've got crisp moulding, you've got really nice details. I'm not going to say the kit was full of innovations, so we've seen some innovations in some of the kits recently, and I wouldn't say there was loads of new engineering that's wowed me, but what has wowed me is the detail, particularly on the inside. I think we've got some lovely detail in there, and you'd expect them to do that with all that glazing. You want to be able to see what's in there. So I I think they've done a really good job of it. As long as the fit of it all going together is as good as it has been recently with their recent kits, then I think this is a cracking little kit. I've been looking forward to it and they haven't disappointed me. Highlights, rigging plan, nice little touch, and the level of surface detail is definitely a highlight. Absolutely beautiful. And let's face it, when you've built the aircraft, what you see most of the time is that surface. So that's the bit that's going to grab your attention. So I think that's stunning. I think the paint schemes are good as well. We've got 3 different countries, lots of variation. Low lights, I think for me the low lights are some of the sprue gates could have been in better positions, particularly all of these that you've got to do, and you've got 2 sprue gates that are on a lip on both sides. That's probably the most time consuming part of the build, I would imagine. So for me that's a bit of a low light. We didn't have any pilots in there. I don't know if anyone picked up on that as we went through. Now, I know that this is Airfix's new policy. They're dropping the pilots. They're not making a big deal about it. But the comment that was made, and I think it was on their sprue talk, was that when they go around and see aircraft at shows, they virtually never have the pilot in. So they're leaving it to the aftermarket boys. It's another way of saving some money. And you know what? I don't massively have a problem with that because it allows you to get the pilot that suits how you want to model it. Maybe a different uniform, different number of pilots. It gives you a little bit of freedom. And if it reduces the cost and keeps things more affordable for people's budgets, then I'm all for it. At the end of the day, it's exactly where you'd expect the kit to be. I could go on about how it's not got sync and it's not got flash, but at the end of the day, we expect it not to. It's a new tool. So, yeah, it is what I was expecting, plus a little bit, which is our surface details, which are absolutely stunning. So, the last thing I want to talk about is building it, because we had a little conversation in my last video tonight and people thought it was a good idea for me to get stuck straight into it. So that's what we're going to do. We're not going to do it right now, but I am going to build this. We're going to start a build diary on this and we're going to get it out. So it's not going in the stash, it's not going upstairs, it's not leaving this room. The sprues, we'll start working on those probably tomorrow morning, and let's see how it goes together. So look out for a build diary for the Avro Anson soon. And I'm going to refilm this and put this out at some point. In the meantime, you'll be able to go back and view this from probably a couple of hours time once it's processed. Okay, so the last thing to say is thank you very much for looking in. Thank you for your comments and taking time to comment. And a big thank you to my daughter Daisy. Say thank you.
What? Thank you.
Say bye-bye to everyone.
Bye-bye.
My daughter has been brilliant, so thank you very much. I will see you all very soon. You enjoy your modelling, and if you've not bought one of these, seriously, you need to consider it because it was pretty cool. Take care, everyone. Have a good evening. Enjoy yourselves, and I will see you very soon. Bye. Right. How do I switch this off now? I can never switch it off. Right.